Well, that laser show means that we have come to the final portion of our day. We want to return to the theme of corporate innovation. It is time to take a look at creativity. Now, let's get a show of hands. Who in this room thinks of themselves as a creative person? So about half. That's pretty good. That's actually more than I thought. Now, not everyone, for those of you who didn't raise your hands, thinks of themselves as a creative person. Maybe you don't paint still lifes, you're not a DJ in your free time. But our next guest is here to convince those of you who didn't raise your hands that you are actually a lot more creative than you think. Please join me in welcoming personal brand strategist Jonathan Tilley.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, my name's Jonathan Tilley. It's a pleasure to be up here on stage at new.New, and it is an absolute honor to be here with you guys today. Before we begin, it would be great if we all could stand up. And the last 5 rows, if you come on down and we just fill this space right in the front. Come on in, it's all good. Get some exercise. Also, the people up here in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th row, let everybody else in. This should be an experience for everybody involved. Talking about disrupting ideas. I see you guys in the back. You didn't even move. Get up, come down. If we're going to disrupt out there, we need to disrupt some things in here. Create a little bit more of a community. Get a bit disruptive. Come on in, everybody. Welcome. Perfect. Come on in. There's some space right over here. Excellent. Thank you so much for making the move. So my name is Jonathan Tilley, and I'd like to talk to you today about what creativity is trying to tell you. But before we dive in, let's connect a little bit. DJing off of what our lovely moderator said, who in this room believes themselves to be creative? 50%, all right. Who doesn't think that they're creative at all? And it's totally okay. It's fine. Well, everybody else that didn't raise their hand, I think 3 people. Awesome. Now, who has in the past week cooked a meal or sat on their living room couch or got dressed? Raise your hands high, people. Awesome. So we've all created a meal. We've all created the interior design of our living rooms that we feel safe and comfortable, and we've all created what we're wearing today. We're all creative, no matter what you think. Maybe in survival mode, but also in what we do in our day-to-day life. As a personal brand strategist, I help creative people and entrepreneurs shine online and share their talent with the world. And I've been a student of creativity for quite a long time. I wasn't always a personal brand strategist. At the age of 9, I was cast as Amal in Mendelssohn's operetta Amal and the Night Visitors at a local community theater, and I was performing on stage and singing, acting, and dancing, and it felt natural, and I knew that what was in here had to be shared out there. And for the past 30 years, I've been a student of creativity, performing on stage in productions like Mamma Mia, Cats, 42nd Street, A Chorus Line, Tanz der Vampire. If you're in the Stuttgart area, then you've probably seen me in the SC-Zentrum. Or when I retired from dancing, because you get a little bit old with white hair, I became a voiceover actor, lending my voice to Facebook, Google, Coca-Cola, Red Bull, and Code N. I've been the voice of Code N for the past 4 years, and I'm looking forward to being the English voice of the new.New conference in the middle of October when this film comes out. What about when I became a personal brand strategist and helping creative people shine online and share their talent with the world? Well, I'd like to talk to you about the creative process and what creativity is really trying to tell you. Now, we can talk about creativity, and under this definition, that's also a very creative klingeltone. So the definition of creativity is the ability to make new things. Seriously? We can wait. Yeah, you might want to leave. That might be a bit respectful. So the definition of creativity is the ability to make new things and think of new ideas, which is utterly boring. When I work with my creative people and creative entrepreneurs, and when I ask my friends how they define creativity, the definition is totally different. They say creativity is the source. Creativity is energy. Creativity is love. Creativity is an entity. Creativity is a secret. Creativity is flow. Creativity is God, man. So, the ability to make new things or love. The ability to think of new ideas versus an entity. So, for the next couple of minutes, let's take a deeper dive into what creativity is really trying to tell you. Sorry about that. I ruined the whole surprise. So, when I was asking some creative friends how they define creativity, we realized that creativity is necessary and has needs, just like an entity. It has needs, like a person, it has needs. The three basic human needs: food, shelter, and clothing. So, the creative process isn't just beginning, a middle, and end. What if creativity has needs for the beginning, has needs for the middle, and has needs for the end? The creative process starts with a thought. But it's not just the thought that counts. It depends upon where the creative thinker is, in what space they are in. Is that creative thinker in a positive, respectful, safe environment? Or is the creative thinker in a negative, shameful, violent environment? Creativity needs sacred space. Just like a thought turning into a thing, it's just like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. When you're under the shower and you have an idea, or you're in your garage creating the new Apple. These sacred spaces are so vital, but we sometimes forget everything about it and how we go about it, and respecting the space that we're in. So here's a true story. As a voiceover actor, I was working on a piece of text, and I really wasn't getting it. I wasn't nailing it. So I called my voiceover coach up, and I said, listen, do you have like 10 minutes? I just got to work on this text with you. I can't really get it. It's very intimate. It's very endearing. It's very close and sacred. And in the Sprecherkabine, in the voiceover booth, it's just this. There's no sound. It's very dry, and you're right behind the microphone. So she said, my coach, Deb Monroe, said, get really close to the microphone. Get really, really close to it. I'm like, okay, great. And she said, now read the text, really close to it. And as you can tell, I'm quite energetic. So I'm close to the mic, and I'm just reading from the Codan brochure. Welcome to the world of digital disruption at the new.New festival. She's like, stop. Get sacred with it. Get intimate with it. Okay? Welcome to the world of digital disruption. At the new.New, stop. Lean into that vulnerability. Okay? She said, put your hand on your chest. Get really sacred with it. Okay? Welcome to the world of digital disruption. What the fuck? Did that come out of me? She's like, yes, it did. That is that sacred space that we're talking about. Creativity needs sacred space for that thought to turn into a thing. So I want to ask you guys, what's your sacred space? Is it under the shower? Is it in the car? Is it while cooking a meal? I need 3 volunteers. What's your sacred space? For Steve Jobs, it was the garage. Yeah. The car, great place. Your sofa, sweet. The park, nature. Discussing with friends at a bar. It's an intimate space. It's where you feel trust, where you feel warmth, where you feel safe. That sacred space. Now imagine those spaces, those feelings that you have in the car, with friends, on your living room couch, in the park. Now imagine if a train was to drive through, or if it was in the middle of a traffic jam. You couldn't get that thought out into the world. So the space where that creative thought is happening is so vital for the creative process. But once that thought comes out, you can mold it and play with it and jam with it a bit. But you got to fall back down and get back up. Fall back down and get back up. Fall back down and get back up. Creativity needs mistakes. 40, 52, 1,526. 40. You know WD-40? Do you know what the 40 stands for? 40th attempt. They needed 40 times until they hit success. I want to know about the 1 through 39 times that they failed, fell flat on their face and had to say, what can I learn from this? Until they hit success at 40. What about 52? 52 times that Angry Birds, the game, needed until they hit success. I want to know about the 1 through 51 times that they failed, fell flat on their face, asked themselves, what can I learn from this? Until they hit success. What about 1,526? 1,526 times Dyson, the vacuum cleaner company, needed until they had a prototype that actually worked. Man, is this company patient? I want to know about the 1 through 1,525 times they fell flat on their face to ask themselves, what can I learn from this? Embrace failure and then hit success. Creativity needs mistakes in order for the creation to tell you what it is not first. Then it tells you what it really is. So let me ask you, what's one mistake that you've had, or that you've experienced, that you've had to embrace failure and then realize, oh yeah, in order for me to realize this, I had to go through that mistake and embrace failure. And it could be a small thing of take a shower before you leave the house, to I shouldn't have invested $5 million in whatever. Give me 3 examples of a mistake that you learned from, where you had to embrace failure and you learned something from it. And I know it's not very easy with a German audience to do this. So I need 3 people. Whoa. Ooh, not to put too much energy into something that I don't want, but somebody else wants. Yep. Anybody else? Got 2 more spots. I got time.
Don't take an idea because it sounds stupid and then you see someone else doing it perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So just miss the time.
Yeah, so don't just, did I understand it? Don't hold off on an idea because you think it's stupid, and then 3 years later, somebody else does it, and you're like, shit, I could have. Yeah, exactly. Great thing to learn from. Take action now. Don't feel afraid from it. Awesome. One more person. Come on. Yeah. Hiking 30 kilometers when you want to go on for another week? What do you mean? And then you're done. You're like, I can't anymore. Good for you, 30 kilometers. That sounds like a success, not a mistake. Awesome. Good for you. So as you see, creativity needs mistakes, whether it be in professional or in your personal life. You need to figure out what it is not in order to figure out what it is. But once you're done molding and shaping that creation, whatever it is, whether it be an idea or a recipe, you're going to realize that this thing, whatever it is done, and it doesn't really need you anymore. That's when you start to share that creation with the world. Creativity needs to be shared. True story. In 2002, a friend of mine gave me a book called Sea of Tranquility from the author Paul Russell. And he said, Jonathan, this book needs to be turned into a play. So I read it cover to cover and I said, yeah, this book is amazing. It needs to be turned into a play, a theatrical piece that people can see on stage. So I let it sit on my shelf for 3 years and picked it back up 3 years later and brought it with me on vacation with my laptop. I was in desperate need of some thinking space, some breathing space, some sacred space. And 2 weeks later, I have a first draft. Woohoo! Fly back home, let it sit on my computer for another 3 years. And I get this funny feeling in my stomach. I go, something's not right. I think it has to do with this play thing that I wrote. I'm not a writer, or am I? So I open it up. I start working on the play again until I get stuck. I say, I kind of need to tell the original author, Paul Russell, what I'd done with his book, just out of respect. So I wrote him an email and I said, hey, Paul, you have no clue who I am, but I turned your book into a play. Want to read it? He read it. He said, it's not bad. Let's work on it. Okay. So we're working on this play. And we too get stuck and we realize, geez, it's not going anywhere. We need to listen to it. We need to hear people, actors, perform it on stage. We need to workshop this. So I fly to New York, meet my all-time favorite author, work on my all-time favorite book that I, with him, turned into a play, with actors on stage. And after a week, we premiered it with an audience the size of you guys to get feedback on how the play is going, if it makes sense, if it works, if it doesn't. That's when it hit me. When you share your creation with the world, it becomes cyclical. I got the input from my friend, hey, this book needs to be turned into a play. It took me 6 years to turn it into a play, and then I shared it with Paul, and Paul and I worked on it. Then we shared it with the actors, and we worked on it. And then the actors and Paul and I shared it with the audience. It came from a thought into mistakes, and then into this big thing that we never thought was possible. Creativity is cyclical. When you share your creation with the world, people take it on and it inspires them and they bring it into their own sacred space, under the shower, in the car, in the park with friends, and you play around with it. Everything's remastered, redone, revamped, whatever, new. But it's all channeled through our own new ways and new vehicles of thinking of different things. Thank you so much for coming. When you share your creation with the world, it inspires other people. So I ask you, 3 people, what have you shared with the world that's inspired somebody else? And it could be the simplest thing of teaching my daughter how to tie her shoes. Welcome. To being the next new Facebook. So I need 3 people. What's something that you shared with the world that inspired somebody else? This should be so much easier than the mistakes. Inspired that you're of the and you have nothing to share? Here we go. Awesome. Big round of applause. That's amazing. I felt some energy over here. Somebody wants to share something. Yeah. Stand up.
There was this great song on YouTube, and I added lyrics in the comments, and the guys really loved it.
Woohoo! Awesome. That's great. Fantastic. Big round of applause. We got a new songwriter over here. Somebody else. What have you shared with the world or with somebody special that inspires them? Who has a child? Come on, let's just make this super easy. Who has a child? Who's a parent? What have you shared with your child that you go, oh, that's sweet? What's that? Your DNA. Awesome, yeah. A real man. So the circle of life, creativity is cyclical. Man, you are awesome. Yes. So creativity needs sacred space. Creativity needs mistakes, and creativity needs to be shared in order to continue the circle of life. So I ask you, when you're in your sacred space, wherever that is, to listen, tune in, and focus, and listen to what creativity is
Jonathan, thank you. I have been sitting